Next on Currents News, a nationwide hunt is underway in Burkina Faso for a terror gang that brutally attacked a Catholic church, killing a priest and 5 others. China is retaliating tonight in the trade war with the United States. The fight between the economic giants is getting worse. A big development about Medjugorje, the place where the Blessed Virgin Mary is said to have appeared. The Pope is taking action.
Shaking the blues away.
Plus, remembering the life and times of Doris Day, Hollywood's box office queen in the 50s and 60s. The news starts right now. Good evening, I'm Michelle Powers. Troops are on the hunt at this hour for a terror gang that savagely attacked a Catholic church in the West African country of Burkina Faso. The pastor and 5 other Catholics are dead. The house of worship was burned to the ground. Currents News' Emily Drewby reports the very latest.
Pope Francis is mourning the deaths of a Catholic priest and 5 parishioners who were murdered after Sunday Mass in Burkina Faso. They were buried today, including Father Simeon Yampa, the 34-year-old pastor of the attacked church. His bishop, Theophile Nare, spoke fondly of Father Yampa, calling him a humble person, obedient, and full of love. He loved his parishioners. Pope Francis expressing his grief in a tweet from the Vatican press office reading, "The Holy Father has learned with sorrow about the news of the attack on the church in Dablo, Burkina Faso. He prays for the victims, for their families, and for the entire Christian community in the country." Just after Sunday morning Mass, up to 30 jihadists hit the church. They chased down and shot Father Yampa, then killed 5 other worshippers before burning down the church. Jihadist attacks are soaring in the region. In 2016, there were 12. In 2017, that figure nearly tripled to 33. Last year, that number was 158. The West African country is among several African nations battling Islamic terrorism. The Bishop of Medjugorje in Nigeria, Oliver Dome, told Currents News about the awful price that has been paid because of Boko Haram.
This very particular sect has destroyed lives and property. As I'm talking to you now, we have over 1,000 Catholics that have been killed from our own diocese. I'm not including all Christians.
Even before Sunday's atrocity, Vice President Pence demanded an end to attacks on faith.
In the last few months, we've seen unspeakable attacks on people of faith. No one should ever fear for their safety in a place of worship, and these attacks on people of faith must stop.
Vice President Mike Pence speaking specifically about recent attacks on synagogues and churches in the United States, Christian churches in Sri Lanka, and the mosque massacre in New Zealand. Michelle?
Emily, we have seen many examples of Christians being killed for their faith. Just how bad are these persecutions recently?
Michelle, Aid to the Church in Need releases yearly numbers on this, and last year in 2018, there were about 300 million Christians across the world that live in places where religious freedom is not respected. Unfortunately, that means a lot of the time the faithful are subjected to violence and human rights violations.
Wow, 300 million. Thank you, Emily. The Catholic churches are open again in Sri Lanka for the first time since the Easter Sunday church bombings. Security precautions prevented the public celebration of Mass until now. Suicide bombers killed more than 250 people on the day of the Lord's resurrection. This Sunday, soldiers and police patrolled the streets leading to the houses of worship. Church-run schools are scheduled to open Tuesday. Islamic State claimed responsibility for the attacks. Candles illuminated St. Adalbert's Church on Staten Island last night as Cardinal Dolan celebrated Mass for the repose of the souls lost in the Easter Sunday bombings. Staten Island is home to a large Sri Lankan community, and many attended the service. The Cardinal led the faithful in prayer for an end to violence and the persecution of Christians everywhere. Pope Francis is giving the green light for priests to lead pilgrimages to Medjugorje, a site where the Virgin Mary has allegedly been appearing since the 1980s. But the Vatican has yet to verify the validity of these apparitions. Sean Richardson reports.
From now on, parishes will be able to organize pilgrimages to Medjugorje. In the past, only private trips were permitted. This measure recognizes spiritual goods emerging from these pilgrimages, where thousands of people go to confession and return to the faith. The Vatican spokesman clarified this does not mean the possible apparitions have been approved. This is because the church is still studying these cases at the moment. On June the 24th, 1981, 6 young people saw for the first time a woman calling them. The lady identified herself as a Blessed Mother, Queen of Peace. She wanted to communicate a message of reconciliation as well as forgiveness. The apparitions occurred daily around 6:30 p.m. and continued uninterrupted. In 2010, Benedict XVI convened a commission of experts to question the visionaries and analyze all aspects of the issue. In 2017, as he returned from his trip in Fatima, Pope Francis revealed the results of the report.
L'informe più o meno dice che si deve continuare a investigare quello. Le apparizioni, le presunte apparizioni attuali, l'informe ha i suoi dubbi. Io personalmente sono più cattivo. Io preferisco la Madonna Madre. E questa non è la mamma di Gesù. E queste presunte apparizioni non hanno tanto valore.
He also noted that these apparitions generate countless conversions and should be taken into consideration.
Gente che va lì e si converte, gente che incontra Dio, che cambia vita, ma questo non c'è una bacchetta magica lì.
It is most likely the first apparitions that occurred during a period of 7 days will receive approval. This is because many of the messages received at that time were later repeated. In Rome, Sean Richardson, Currents News.
Retaliation is the big news in Washington tonight. China is hitting back at the United States in the rapidly escalating trade war between the two economic giants. Kristen Holmes reports the very latest on the growing conflict.
World markets in turmoil as the trade war between China and the U.S. escalates. Trade talks between the two countries remain at a standstill. China announcing it was raising tariffs on $60 billion of U.S. goods, set to go into effect June 1st.
China will never yield to external pressure.
The move, retaliation for President Trump's hiking of tariffs from 10% to 25% on some $200 billion worth of Chinese exports. The president doubling down on his strategy.
We're in a very strong position. Our economy has been very powerful. Theirs has not been. Open your division or open up your product. Have it made in this country as opposed to made in China.
But experts say it's unlikely China will bend, a combination of culture and a political system allowing a long-term approach.
China has other options. It can invest in lots of other countries around the world.
The president's economic advisor acknowledging the escalation won't be very good for consumers.
It's U.S. businesses and U.S. consumers who pay, correct?
Yes, to some extent. I don't disagree with that. Again, both sides will suffer on this.
U.S. companies and farmers growing more concerned.
A few years ago, I was selling soybeans at $16.80 a bushel. Soybeans have dropped just below $8 a bushel. The President of the United States owes farmers like myself some type of plan of action.
In Washington, Kristen Holmes, Currents News.
A bill that would outlaw abortion in Alabama is being delayed. The law would make performing an abortion a felony offense, and doctors who end the lives of the unborn could face between 10 years to life in prison. The vote has been delayed due to a disagreement over whether an exception for cases of rape or incest should be included. The president of the Senate moved the vote to next week to allow senators time to think it over. Also tonight, legendary actress, singer, and activist Doris Day has died. America's box office sweetheart of the 50s and 60s was 97 years old. Stephanie Elam takes a look back at Doris's extraordinary life.
Shaking the blues away, unhappy news away.
Over the span of 2 decades, Doris Day was one of Hollywood's most popular leading ladies. The consummate girl next door, Day's vivacious on-screen charisma and sweet vocals won over fans around the globe.
I'm gonna ring the bell tonight, I'm gonna ring the bell tonight.
Day's career began as a teen growing up in the Midwest. A singer, she shared the stage with big band giants Bob Crosby and Les Brown.
Gonna take a sentimental journey.
Her first recording hit, Sentimental Journey, was especially popular with American troops coming back from World War II. A gig in Hollywood led to her first movie role, the 1948 musical Romance on the High Seas.
I'm in love, 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 I'm in love.
In the 50s and 60s, she co-starred with Hollywood legends like Rock Hudson, Cary Grant, and James Stewart. Her films consistently top the box office, many featuring Day's wide vocal range, like her rendition of Que Sera Sera.
Que sera.
Whatever Will Be became Day's anthem and won an Oscar for Best Song. But it was romantic comedies like Calamity Jane,
23 miles we covered today.
That Touch of Mink,
Hello?
Morning, Miss Mara.
and the blockbuster Pillow Talk, which endeared her to fans as America's sweetheart. Off-screen, Day bristled at her innocent depiction on-screen, telling host Johnny Carson she wanted to set the record straight.
The image has been so boring. You know, the virgin and the goody two-shoes and all the nonsense, which is, you know, it's not human.
In 1969, she was nominated as Best Actress for her TV sitcom, The Doris Day Show. And 20 years later, she received a Lifetime Achievement Award.
This business has been a great joy in my life. I've loved every minute of it.
In 2004, President George W. Bush presented Day with the Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian honor. After Hollywood, Day dedicated herself to the care of animals through a foundation that bears her name.
Go to your city shelter today and adopt a pet.
Late in life, Day was rarely seen in public, but she still had plenty of admirers. Once a year, in her final act, she emerged to celebrate her birthday, serenaded by a chorus of devoted fans.
According to her foundation, Doris's wishes were that she have no funeral, memorial service, or grave marker. There's a lot more news headed your way. A big step with cameras that could make it safer for children to walk the streets near their schools in the Brooklyn Diocese and across the city. Another camera was rolling when a child did something that was wrong. And I'll have the story of new priests being ordained and what Pope Francis told them. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. Catholic students and others across the city could soon be safer on their way to school. That's because there's going to be a lot more speed cameras watching drivers going through school zones. A new law calls for an additional 600 cameras to be put in place and to keep them running for more hours. Governor Andrew Cuomo explained why he signed the bill on Sunday.
Speed cameras work. It is just undeniable. They work on the numbers. Since the speed cameras have gone in, fatalities in school zones have decreased 55%.
Drivers caught going 10 miles per hour over the speed limit will receive a $50 fine in the mail. The new cameras will be installed first in areas where the most accidents have been reported. A security doorbell camera caught a child apparently stealing a package right off the front porch of a homeowner in a quiet California neighborhood. Bridget B. O'Lore reports.
Not a single car driving through this quiet Sacramento suburb. Neighbors say Hollywood Park is home to dozens of families with kids.
Hollywood Park is just a fantastic neighborhood. The schools are fantastic. The families have stayed here, a lot of these families, for 50 and 60 years.
But recently, this unlikely neighborhood was the site of a fairly common crime. Only this time, the alleged culprit was a child. This Ring doorbell video shows a little girl running up to a home on Joaquin Way. You can see her snatch a couple of packages and then dart off. She barely makes it in the car before the getaway driver quickly speeds away.
That's truly a shame because somebody's probably teaching them that. Those are probably things that are taught, and that's unfortunate.
I'm very surprised in that it was a child, that did that. So it's concerning. It's concerning because probably an adult put him up to it, and that's what's concerning.
Cynthia Gargovich says her family has lived across the street for generations and has never seen anything quite like this.
If it's only one incident, I wouldn't look at it as a trend, but it's concerning that you have a neighborhood with families and kids, and then something like that happens. You kind of stop and think, wow, you're just not safe anywhere anymore.
And tonight, the neighborhood is hoping an arrest will be made soon to prevent another home from falling victim.
I hope they catch whoever did that, and I hope if it's an adult behind it, that the adult pays the price for it, not the child.
The homeowners filed a police report. No word yet on any arrest in connection with the theft. The Knights of Columbus are honoring the Colorado student who sacrificed his life for his classmates last week. The Knights are assisting with 18-year-old Kendrick Castillo's burial services as his father John is a Knight himself. The Denver Council is also posthumously naming Kendrick a Knight, showing the Castillo family that they are not alone.
What Knights do is take care of our families, take care of our communities, take care of our parishes. You can't help but your heart to bleed. I have 2 kids of my own, and I couldn't imagine what the loss would be like.
Castillo's father is a member and would often take Kendrick to night events. Together, they perform 2,600 hours of community service. Now, for the latest on a still developing story in the Middle East, claims of sabotage against giant oil tankers in the waters off Iran. Saudi Arabia is saying 2 of its ships and another 2 from the United Arab Emirates and Norway are damaged. It is unknown at this hour who's behind the suspected attacks. The Norwegian ship shows obvious signs of damage to its hull. The incidents happened near the Strait of Hormuz, a vital waterway for the shipment of oil. Nick Robertson is in the Gulf of Oman with the latest.
What we are learning here is that this sabotage incident began in the early hours of Sunday morning. This is one of the vessels affected, an Emirati flag vessel. There are 2 Saudi flag vessels that were affected as well, and 1 Norwegian vessel affected. And what we understand happened here is that a call came in early in the morning indicating that possibly there was water in the engine room of one of the vessels. And within a couple of hours, a total of 4 calls had been registered indicating that something was out of the ordinary with a number of vessels here. Now, the Emirati authorities have begun investigating. The initial indications are that this is sabotage. Precisely the nature of that sabotage, precisely who's responsible, exactly what happened isn't clear. This vessel does seem to have a little bit of a list to it at the moment. The back seems to be a little bit lower in the water. The investigation is going on at the moment, and this comes at a very tense time in the Strait of Hormuz here. If you look around here, you can see a lot of ships, perhaps 100 or so more vessels in this area. What we understand is that these 4 vessels, these 4 commercial vessels that were subject to this sabotage, were in different areas in this, what is essentially a huge park, if you will, for vessels to wade up close to the mouth of the Strait of Hormuz. So these vessels that were impacted by the sabotage were not in the same location. And at this time, tensions here are rising. The U.S. battle carrier group, the Abraham Lincoln carrier group, is on the way into the region. Patriot missile battery on the way into the region. B-52 bombers on the way into the region. And of course, the coastline with Iran not far away from here either. And while the Emirati investigation is going on, and it's not clear when it will conclude, the concerns are that this incident, this sabotage incident, can lead to a rise in tensions. And that, of course, is a great worry right now.
A U.S. government official is confirming tonight that the United Arab Emirates has formally asked for American help in determining what happened on the high seas. Still to come on Current News, the Pope ordains priests from around the world. I'll tell you about the Holy Father's message to them. And a top cardinal at the Vatican comes to the rescue. Find out what he did and where he went. And the tablet has a brand new page called Our Diocesan Family, where you can share your pictures of recent baptisms, Holy Communions, confirmations, marriage, all of the joyous sacraments. For more details and to submit your photos, go to thetablet.org/OurDiocesanFamily. Your picture may be published in an upcoming issue of the paper. We'll be right back. Pope Francis celebrated Mother's Day on Sunday by thanking moms worldwide for their precious work.
Vorrei inviare un caro saluto a tutte le mamme, ringraziandoli. Un applauso alle mamme, a tutte. Ringraziandole per la loro preziosa opera nella crescita dei figli e nella tutela dei valori della famiglia. Anche ricordiamo le mamme che ci guardano dal cielo e continuano a vegliare su di noi con la preghiera.
Francis encouraged everyone to entrust themselves to the Blessed Mother in order to continue one's journey with joy and generosity as she did. And from mothers to fathers, the priestly kind, Francis had a very busy Sunday. In a glorious ceremony at St. Peter's Basilica, the Holy Father ordained new priests. Wearing white robes, 19 men were ordained to the priesthood by Pope Francis in St. Peter's Basilica this weekend. The church, their new home, though they're originally from all corners of the globe, Italy, Japan, Peru, and Haiti, a true example of the global church. During his homily, the Holy Father told the new priest to always follow the example of the Good Shepherd, who didn't come to be served, but to serve.
Partecipe del ministero di Cristo. Sia gioia e sostegno ai fedeli di Cristo, il profumo della vostra vita, uomini di preghiera, uomini di sacrificio.
The Pope also asked them to be closely united to their bishops, their brother priest, and most importantly, the people. He advised them to pray with intensity and live out the Eucharist with faith.
Mai si può fare un'omelia, una predicazione senza tanta preghiera con la Bibbia in mano. La celebrazione dell'Eucaristia è il sommo della gratuità del Signore. Per favore, non sporcarla con interessi meschini.
The ordinations came as the church celebrates the World Day of Prayer for Vocations. The now ordained priests range in age from their mid-20s to their late 40s. A top Vatican Cardinal, Konrad Krajewski, is being held tonight for taking action to restore power to hundreds of people. He's the chief of the Pope's Charities. He learned that about 450 people, including 100 children, have been living in a Rome building for days without electricity and hot water. They couldn't pay their bill. So Cardinal Krajewski climbed down a manhole and switched the power back on. He said it was a desperate gesture to help families struggling to survive. That is Currents News. I'm Michelle Powers. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.